So, how did we meet? It was 4 years ago, right?
Yeah, 5 years ago, I think it was. Was it at your offices or did we go for lunch straight away? I can't remember.
It was in London. It was we went for lunch in that Sushi
Covent
Samba,
Garden,
Covent
Sushi
Garden.
Samba. That's right, Sushi
That was
Samba.
amazing. We'd never met before. I mean,
That's
yes,
right.
we did on
the conference
on
calls.
the conference calls and so on, but never
in
like that. So
in real life.
Yeah.
I know it was. What I remember, one is Sushi Samba is one of my favorite restaurants, but one of the things that always sticks with me is I sat down and we said, "Oh, we're going to have a drink," and I said, "Well, I'm not really a big beer drinker. I like cocktails." And you went, "Oh, so do I. I don't really like beer. I drink cocktails as well." So I think that was it, wasn't it?
Yeah, first connection. So the key was that it worked. Of course, there was a business, but at on personal level, we established a common understanding, and it clicked very quickly. And the cocktail bit was kind of amazing because you like girly cocktails, and so do I. So we ordered a cocktail that looked like maybe not for expecting for us, but sweet and nice, and we stayed quite late, isn't it?
We were there for a good 3-4 hours at least over lunch.
We were last customers of the restaurant
of the day. For me, Francois, I think. Business is business, but we're all human beings. And isn't it nice to do business and work with people that you really get along with and you respect and you like? And I think one of the things that I pride myself on is I'm quite a good judge of character. And I think from the minute that I sat down and we started talking, I just felt very comfortable. And for me, that's the number one thing. I feel comfortable, therefore I trust you. Now, if I trust you as an individual, as a person, I trust you with my business as well. So I think from that initial meeting, it was very easy to see that, this was a guy that I'd like to get to know as a friend, and also I'd like to do business with him. So it was a fantastic day.
Yeah. And then afterwards it worked as well. So
exactly.
I enjoyed the day. I must say that I didn't expect it to be that long, but I always found in all my career that personal relationships are very important. So that there are some of them that don't work, some of them that work, but the business that we're in is people business.
Absolutely.
We're insure people, or people are our client, and there are intermediaries between us and the client, and it's also there are individuals. It's basically people business. Mm-hmm. The biggest value of our industry is the people that work together to be able to deliver to client. So when it's enjoyable, there's a better understanding. There's a motorway towards a goal, I find, at least, and a better understanding on what we're doing. Open discussion, the ability to say what is needed to be said when it's working well and when it's not working well. I remember a discussion we had afterwards, which was a bit more difficult, and he said, "Hey, Francois, and then thank God we had established that amazing moment of basis and a strong basis of our relationship to go through a bit more difficult moment, which were passed by quite easily, I found."
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head. And as I said, trust is sort of the foundation of working with individuals or just being friends with people. And I think off the back of that initial meeting, we went through some tough times. We went through some good times. Yep. But at the end of the day, I think we both knew that we had each other's back. We would always try and do the best for each other, business-wise, company-wise, etc. And I think that just solidifies the relationship. And so what have you been doing, Francois, for the last little while that you've been doing your podcast Covered?
Well, I've been focusing on that. So before that, I went. I was in the insurance industry for a long time, and always driven internationally. So that's been my drive. Is I like travel. I like going towards people. I like meeting something new. I like using also my ability to connect with people because it's something that I enjoy. And I was CEO of a company in Luxembourg a long time ago, an insurance company belonging to a big German insurance group. Then I went to the group center for 5 years doing global steering, and then did a bit of global employee benefit, working in establishing a new product with several tribes or division of that group. And then I went back to Luxembourg, working for a company, much smaller insurance, little insurance group, but they had the ambition to create something internationally. So the startup mode was there, totally different than being a global player like with the German company. But the small one was also exhilarating. So it was a small team to grow from a very small premium income to much bigger. So there was a growth. We grew more than tenfold over 4 years. There was also an acquisition, and there was a lot of exhilarating moment. So that was great time.
Oh, look, it's
that's how we met, isn't it?
Yeah, exactly.
That's how we met in a certain stage of your career and your whatever you were doing. So let you say it. I don't want to take your space.
I mean, no, and it's interesting for me again, speaking to yourself, because you've come from a very large insurance company, you've worked within certain products, and then you've gone to a smaller startup, so to call, international insurance company, and then you drove that for a number of years. So it's always interesting to see that perspective from someone who's sort of worked in, let's say, the various different verticals of insurance, i.e. large insurance company, medium, and then small. What obviously I've done in my career, so to say, is me and my father started a consultancy brokerage business 30 years ago. We were focused on mainly Indian MNCs sending employees overseas. We built that brokerage, sold that off several years ago.
It's cool to do that with your father, isn't it?
Absolutely. And look, for me, I think now that I've hit my 50s, those are the things that I really think about most, is sort of my family, my kids, what I did with my father. Whereas maybe 10, 15, 20 years ago, it was, well, I was able to buy this house, or I was able to get that car, or I was able to go on that holiday. So my perspective has changed. I think for me, the most important thing is your family, your loved ones. But then when you sort of extrapolate that outwards, the way I look at it anyway is Mayfair, my company. All of my employees are part of my family. They're an extended part of my family. The members that we look after are part of our extended family. And we have 200,000 or so people, lives that we care for globally. So how do you deliver that continuously in the international space? And it's something that I probably speak a lot about, is how do we leverage the technology to have human empathy, to make our members' lives easier, to treat them better, and to give them a better medical result at the end of the day. What I've found is having the brokerage, then we had our own captive insurance company, which we ran for a number of years and then sold off. And now we've gone into where I think is probably the hardest part of the delivery cycle when it comes to medical insurance, which is delivering the service. And it's how do you use the technology, because we're an insurtech business as well. How do you take that technology, make the members' life easier, make the insurance journey easier, give better results to insurers and underwriters so they can improve their pricing and keep their underwriting margins steady. But marry that with human empathy. I think one of the things, specifically in IPMI global insurance, that you have to always remember is you're dealing with human beings. You may be dealing with someone who's in a different country for the first time, different culture, different food, different weather, and now they fall sick, or even worse, one of their loved ones falls sick. How do you ensure that you deliver the service correctly to everyone, but keeping human empathy?
What is service?
Yeah.
Because service is like, is that being there for them, or is that you give them a peace of mind? Basically, insurance, and we talk about insuring people here, is about providing somebody with a risk-less environment than without insurance, right?
Correct.
So providing the service is delivering on that promise. Somebody's going to pay money. It's an employer, is a father, a mother, a family. going somewhere outside their home country, in the unknown, and being into this environment where there's less security than at home. And the certainty that we provide with insurance is trust. Because when the money is paid, you don't know if you're going to get sick, or the person is going to get sick, or the family is going to get sick, or there's an accident or something bad is going to happen. So at the moment it happens, you have to be there. And that moment can be any time, right? So it's especially in the service part, you need to be there to pick up the phone and tell the hospital, yes, that person is covered, or don't worry about it. Something is going to we are going to take care of you.
We're going to pick up the bill.
Exactly.
I think, you just said it a second ago. It's you're selling something that the person isn't buying a glass of water, or they're not buying a laptop. They're buying something that will protect them in case something happens. So when you sell them that insurance policy, you better deliver on the service, because that's actually what you're selling them.
Yeah.
You're selling them that policy is going to take care of you if something goes wrong. So then if something does go wrong and you don't deliver the service that you've promised, well, then you haven't done what you said you would.
Yeah.
So you're absolutely right. But I guess you got to build the right policy. You got to understand what the people need, where they're going to. And then obviously the service that's delivered off the back of that has to be spot on.
Exactly. And I find the ecosystem of insurance amazing and so strong, because there's creativity coming from all the sides. It's not about being an insurer and being able to deliver all the services. Of course, some insurers do that with agencies and big back office, but they do that for a specific product in a specific location. We talk here about global business with global reach. And there's no one in the ecosystem that's able to deliver the full extent of it. So what we've always done, when I was working for this big German insurance group, of course, it's very big. So the part of the ecosystem that you have at home is very, very broad, and you're able to use that power to deliver to the client. But even then, you have to rely on external parties to be able to deliver a very specific element of the service, manage a relationship in a specific country. It's never happening fully in one piece of the ecosystem. And I find the investment into new technology of the insurance sector, and whether it's the insurers themselves, the reinsurers, or the new entrants, or those that have been established for a while, that invest actually quite a lot of money, requiring a lot of capital or additional investment to grow and be able to survive in the environment. This big competition element, but there's space for a lot of people. There's a space for creativity, and I find this ecosystem usually very, very interesting. Personally, I'm open to very much creating alliances. Of course, you have competition from others, but alliance for me is an important element. And that's something that we've established also the first time we discussed, is creating an alliance, aligning interest, and working out how we can deliver for our client better at the end of the day. And it's not about one day only. It's like we have to keep on working on that element days in, days out. And after a while, it's actually clicking very well together, and the servicing element is coming. And I haven't spoken about the digital and digitalization elements, but I speak always about the collaboration. How can we work together, and working out on how we make it happen. So it's not about wishful thinking, intellectually thinking we can make it work, but how does it really work? How does it click in reality, and keep on working on it? And you spoke about the family and the teams. The two of us, we met. That was great. But if the team don't like each other, can't work with each other, it's just not working. So the things are that we have to go home, do our homework, get the team working towards that goal, getting the vision in, and the teams has also the need to click and get the things absolutely working together.
Yeah, no, look, I think there's a few things that you've sort of touched on there. I think one of the great things is because you've had the experience you've had, you're very able to see the path to growing a business when it comes to insurance, whether that be IPMI or PMI. And I think that comes because of your experiences that you've had and where you've worked and what you've done. So I think that's a fantastic perspective and very interesting. And look, for me, I used to always be of the belief is, I want to build everything, I want to control everything, and that's how we're going to capture a bigger piece of the market. But you're absolutely right. That's never going to work because technology is moving so quickly, as we can see with APIs and AI and robotic claims adjudication and things like this. There's no way that you could control all of that technology ecosystem if you try and build it internally. I think that would be a disaster. So our whole base system is fully API-able from very different platforms, etc. And I think more and more insurers, health benefits administrators, TPAs are working in this way. There's a new service that we've launched where we can issue you a virtual credit card into your app for paying for a treatment when you go to a hospital rather than being reimbursed. That technology would have taken us years to develop, test, and we just don't have the capacity or probably the knowledge internally to have developed something like that. So you have to work with partners. And I think to your clients and to your members, as long as you're delivering the service that you've promised them, it doesn't matter if you work with third parties and you work with other partners to deliver that service. As long as you're delivering what you've promised the end user.
Yeah, no, I fully agree with that. And even the biggest one, as I said at the beginning, are in need to rely on external parties. Now, external parties are there to acquire a competence or a set of competence that you don't have at home, and vice versa. So you're servicing companies, as you explained, you focus now on really servicing clients, helping insurers optimizing the value chain in the delivery to the client in terms of timing, in terms of breadth, in terms of scope, cultural integration, etc. So there's many elements to this. And your partners, us, at the time where we are risk carrier, we understand the market, we can link with distributors, with the headquarters of the clients, and be able to also take part of the relationship with the client, but not necessarily the client who are covered, the insured, but the policy holder, so the corporate client who's owning the policy and paying a big premium so that their employees can go all over the world in a very safe way, safe for themselves, safe for their family, but safe for the employer as well, because for their expat, having people sent somewhere is a big cost, is a big investment, and they need to make sure that also the financial element are there. But at the end of the day, the servicing element that you provide to the client and that we were looking for is something which is crucial. If the client is not happy with the servicing element, he doesn't care or she doesn't care about the premium.
Correct.
What matters is the peace of mind of the HR department, of the CFO, of the manager who send those people abroad, so that everything is going smoothly when there is a problem. And there's always a health problem. There's always an accident. There's always a heart attack. Yeah. There's always whatever happens. But this is why we're there, because this is the moment of truth. This is the moment where we need to prove that we're there for them, and teamwork between several elements of the ecosystem then need to work in a seamless way. You spoke about API. If the API don't work, whether they are actually digital API or people API, because this is also an important one.
Yeah,
we don't
very well said.
Speak about API in terms of people, more interfaces, but it's the same issue. That's where it can grip, or that's where when it works, it can be successful.
Yeah, look, again, it's like any business that I've ever been involved in. If you as the leader get along with the leader of the other entity, great. But if your teams under you don't see eye to eye, it doesn't really matter what the leaders say, because it will never work smoothly. So one of the things that I speak about with all of my employees, and a lot of them have been with me for 15, 20 years now, is I always say, look, simple rule is you deal with other people the way you would like to be dealt with. If you treat people with respect and you treat them with kindness, that's what you'll get back. So not just our partners, not just our internal stakeholders, not just our members, not the insurers we work with, everyone you have to treat the same way as you would treat anyone else, as you would like to be treated. So deal with them with respect, give them time, put the effort in. And what I find is if you develop those relationships within work, those people will put in more effort when it comes to if you need something in an emergency or you need some help. They will go that extra mile because you've gone that extra mile for them previously.
Yeah.
And that, for me, look, at the end of the day, health insurance, what are we doing? We're looking after human beings in their greatest time of need. Someone I heard it the other day, I think it was on a Joe Rogan podcast, was health is wealth. That's it. If you don't have your health, doesn't matter how much money you have, doesn't matter what else you have access to. If you don't have your health, you've got nothing.
Yeah.
So.
No, super important as well is the clarity, because we not everything is covered all the time. So there are things that are covered, things that are not covered. Without going into too many details here, but it happens. Every medical insurance is related to limits and to levels of coverage and elements that are covered. Now, usually people will hope to be covered because they have an issue and it's emotional. And this is the moment where the human element is super important, because when we have to say no, then we have to explain why it is a no as well.
Yeah.
Sometimes, of course, for human reasons, sometimes there's a bit of weakness that says we'll do it, and it's a weakness from more the underwriter point of view here. But there's some terrible moment for people where you just decide for a big policy or for humanitarian reason that you make a step and in the direction of the client. It doesn't mean that you endanger your portfolio and you create losses where there shouldn't be losses, or that everybody's covered for no reason. Because then if you pay undue money to somebody or uncovered the claim which is not covered to somebody, then you endanger the whole population of the client that they have trust in you for what they are covered for. So this is a fine line to always play with, and because it's emotional, then there's always an impact. And whether it's one of my underwriter or me, when it involves some terrible cases, I don't want to be too specific here, but there are things that you take home, and you can't be called always, because you have to say no. When you say yes, that's the easy bit. But you're not a leader, you're not a manager, you're not a CEO if you say yes to everything. Yeah, so you have to balance all the elements. What I found always super interesting is all those people that are covered, that are thankful for it. And those people that are not covered, and you explain them very clearly why they're not covered in a human way. Of course, sometimes they're not happy, but they're also thankful for the clarity.
Yes.
You can't say no, a hard no by email, because you don't have what it takes to explain it to them. This is the moment where actually you demonstrate that you are there for them, even when you say no.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more with you. And I think for me, because we mainly deal with corporates rather than retail, although we've just entered the retail market, the broker, or if the insurer or the client's gone directly to the insurer, has to be very clear on what the policy covers and doesn't, and really needs to spend some time with the client making them understand that. Because it does then make it slightly easier when you get to maybe turning down certain claims. But you're absolutely right. What you need to always be able to do is, even if it's a no, you need to be able to explain it, and you need to have that human empathy. So it's not just an email saying, oh, this is declined, this isn't covered. I like our guys to actually call people and speak to them and go, look, the reason this isn't covered is this, this, and this.
Yeah.
Because you're absolutely right. Insurance policies are not going to cover every single thing from A to Z. Otherwise, it's not an insurance policy, it's self-funding because everything's covered.
Yeah.
So, you can't have all claims covered under a policy. One, the premiums would become unrealistic. And obviously, you look at the aging population, that then becomes an issue. So yeah, you can't cover everything. But what you can do is whenever you explain a benefit or why something's covered or not covered, you can have human empathy and deliver it in a way that the member understands. They still may not like it because at the end of the day, it's something that's not going to be covered. But like you say, at least they understand why it's not covered. And I have found that a number of companies that when I've looked out there, they just don't provide that clarity, or they don't provide the time and effort to provide that clarity, which is important, I think.
Yeah, right. Exactly. So it's a basis of the trust. The clarity is
absolutely
one basis of the trust. One other basis of trust, I think, is also the cultural element, which is so important. When you come from a big country or a small country, although I must say that I made a mistake to think that if you come from a small country, you're more able to see and understand that other culture exists and to bridge that because there's a gap of understanding, there's a gap of there are codes, there are words, obviously everybody can hear I'm French speaking, but if you have people in France, Switzerland or Belgium will have the same coverage. And there's one element which is so important is the wording is different in each of the countries. So if you speak to a Swiss or a French, you will need to use a different word and to demonstrate to the client that you understand him or her. And that is actually a defining element with broker who gave us training on those differences because they were closer to the population. And I think with the India population that you service, you have this competitive advantage over so many. I mean, I don't think that any insurance company, unless it's an Indian company, is able to compete with you, whether the German, American, French, Luxembourgish, or Spanish, or I'm going to forget lots of nationalities here. Yeah. I don't want to forget any, but let's start there. They do not have the ability to service the Indian population in a way like you do, but it's also something that you deliver, and at the time is the understanding of the other side, because a fully Indian company doesn't have the ability to look outside. So going back to my element saying, small country, I mean, you need to bridge the cultural gap. You need to also understand that small countries do not have that ability always, even it's an international outward-looking country. But the biggest the country, the more inward-looking you are and the less able, because the process are geared towards internally, the internal way of the country, how it works there with the system, with the population, and all the things that go with them, that looking outward, the ability to think internationally is also a very, very critical aspect. So it's marrying both that I find a success factor in our industry.
Yeah, look, I agree and disagree slightly. So for me, you're right. The majority of our business is Indian expats overseas, but actually we now have a large number of Filipino seafarers.
Yeah.
So seafarers are one of the big markets that we play in. We've now opened an office in the US, so we're starting to pick up some US travel business. Yes, culture is very helpful, right? Because the majority of our population currently sits at about 200,000 members. Out of that, I would say 65-70% are Indian expats. The rest are various different nationalities. But what has to be consistent, doesn't matter about the culture, the language, or anything else, is a human connection, empathy. It's just being able to put yourself in someone's situation when they're not well, they need treatment, they don't understand the language, culture, etc. Is being able to go, okay, well, how would I feel if that was happening to me? So we do a lot of training with our guys that work on the calls. One of the things that we do that maybe a lot of other administrators don't do is the people who answer our calls are actually the people who also process claims and work within the same unit. We don't separate them and have our call centers in another building compared to our claims people or our assistance people, because we feel it's very important that you have that human connection with that end user. Whether they be an Indian expat, whether they be a European expat, whether they be an American expat or Latin American, etc. So, yes, understanding the culture, understanding where that person's from, I think is a great advantage. But more importantly is just being able to speak to that person, have that human connection, and guide them and help them and say, hey, you need anything? These are my contact details. You can contact me. You don't have to go to the call center. You don't have to do this. You don't have to do that. And really, for me, it's about how we use technology to reduce the burden on our claims administrators, assistance people for the low-hanging fruit. So let's say, the $50 GP visit, which just really needs to go through the reimbursement process, and that's it. How do we use technology to do all of that so we can get our human beings to focus more on helping people when they need it and they want that human empathy? So, probably for the slightly more serious claims.
Yeah. Okay, so probably I simplified a little bit or labeled a bit the company too much on the Indian side, but for delivering to the seafarers industry, you also have an office in the Philippines or people from the Philippines. So the cultural element there, you've bridged it, although it's part of one team.
Yes.
You bridged it by acquiring a talent which is culturally oriented towards that population.
Absolutely.
And I had the example before with French and Swiss and Belgium, although, the same language, although
let's not go down that road.
It's dangerous. And the jokes are going to come up, but let's put those jokes aside. And although they could be funny, but let's take the angle that I actually lived when in Luxembourg, where it was easy for us to have German speakers and German people servicing the German population, and also French to service the French expats. And I found that always very important to be able to do so. We had an Irish guy who was a great guy, very, very focused on helping people, but he spoke a bit of German and a bit of, I can't remember if he spoke French, but at least he was, helping the German population. And, it was not the same thing.
Yeah.
There is in moment of distress, people want to have, they go back to their childhood where they learned their own mother language, basically. And this is important to have that connection. So your human connection is also helped with the culture. It's also helped with the culture. Of course, smaller countries have less demand on that front, but it's something that I've seen very strong.
Look, it's, again, any business that you do or any product that you build or any service that you build, what are you doing? You're creating that for a human user at the end. So you're always, whatever we build, whatever we develop, whatever software we have, we're always building it to deliver some sort of service or product to a human being at the end of the day. So it's just going back and having that human connection. Everyone loves that. And one of the things that, concerns me is I see more and more kids, including my own, spending more and more time just looking into screens. There's no human connection. Where's that? Where's that empathy? Where's that being able to deal with human beings, how to communicate, how to have patience? One of the things now is with AI and chat GPT and everything else, maths. You can do all of your maths through there, right? Very easy. But actually learning your times table or something simply like that, what does it teach you? It teaches you how to problem solve. It teaches you to have patience, because you can't just go 12 times 12 is 144. You've got to think through it. So I'm just a little bit worried about where we're going with all this sort of social media, and it's taking us away from being human beings, which I think is something that we all need to get better at doing. Yeah. And that's why when I speak a lot about my company and how we deliver our services, it's, yes, we are an insurtech, we're driven by technology, but how do you marry that with the human side of the story?
Yeah. That's a challenge that everybody's facing.
Yeah.
And I believe the AI itself cannot survive alone. It's going to be then a monolith that always thinks the same, because it's going to get all the data and just weight all the data. The models, will get more similar. So there has to be human trying to challenge that and steer that. And
I hope so.
That's why I welcome so many different models in AI and models over models and the ability to not become always the norm. That being normal is too easy. And of course, with AI, there's such a mass of things that normality has become much broader.
Yeah.
But it's still normal. So there has to be sometimes genius and creativity that's going to spark something outside what AI can do or what standard human beings can do, just like in painting that is always used, or music or whatever it is. But something that changes the paradigm, and then the model of AI will pick that, of course, but they will also then drive normality towards a different direction. The other element is in our business, I think AI can do so many things. The amount of data that we have, it's amazing. And we 10 years ago, 5 years ago, 3 years ago, we're not able to use it all.
Yeah.
But now with all the AI ecosystem that is growing, then our ability to use AI, and so we have to rely on different new entrant in our ecosystem, which is actually super great. But because there's more talent that is coming and allows us as specialists, I would say we are a bit old world, after 30 years of experience, we can't say that we're fresh in here. But we know how the value chain works. We know how the things are working. We have gut feeling. And sometimes AI is dreaming, and all those model that you develop on such a large number of data, they don't give what you expect as information. And some of the conclusion can be actually fact-based, and it's great to know. But sometimes you're like, is this true? And there's so much hallucination. That's one. And also, because of the set of data that is being used is not the global population data, there is going to be a bias, right? So, there's part of the portfolio that you can, you will extrapolate into for other part of the portfolio.
Absolutely.
But it's such a big bias.
It's also, the people building the AI and writing the code and everything else, human beings are biased without actually knowing it, right? If you grow up in a certain place, let's say Los Angeles, and you grow up in Moscow, you're going to look at things very differently because of how you've grown up. So it's also about the people doing the code and writing the code. And my slight concern is I don't know. I was reading about Grok 4.0, and apparently it's going to be able to write new physics by next year and build new businesses by the end of this year, which are not currently around. That for me, but I think we're going slightly off topic. I think that for me is when it starts to get concerning, is how do you build a framework, a regulatory framework around AI so it doesn't then go down certain holes that you don't want it to go down. But I also think it brings a lot of advantage. Like one of the things that I'm currently looking at for my business is, so we want to be able to, we deploy currently a capability through a third-party call center to speak 100 languages. Well, actually now, I'm sure people have seen, you can get these earbuds that do simultaneous translation.
Yeah.
So actually, can we have that software in our IVR system?
Yeah.
So then we're doing simultaneous translation and we don't need a third party involved. So, there's loads of things that technology is going to bring about that really are helpful. Mass data, AI looking at, does a better job than consultants on picking out breast cancer, because the data set that the AI can look through is a lot more than the knowledge that consultant has had.
Yeah.
So it can pick it up quicker. So, there's loads of things that AI is going to be great for. And, I think we just need to find the right balance. And that's all I'm really saying.
Yeah, as long as AI, I think AI and human will work together. So there's the element of prevention. So so there's breast cancer detection or cancer detection, or let's go broad, illness detection. There's with AI, we can now start to detect before cancer already.
Yeah, amazing.
And we're just at the beginning.
Yeah.
But how great is that to be able to be early stage and be able to tackle the situation.
Oh.
So that's just an example that in prevention, in our industry, there's so much that's going to be done. It's very expensive.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that it's going to be cheaper for the people. But isn't that there is value to it that, our industry will become not only a payer or a servicing agent when people are sick, but also a company and helping those clients to stay healthy. Of course, reducing the claim, but there's a lot of work that has to be done at the beginning. There is, of course, always the element of judgment, and there has to be. Well, I spoke about clarity earlier. The moment where you say no to a client, to be clear. Of course, if you say to somebody, you're going to get cancer in 2 years' time, if you go on like this, some people will not accept that and will keep on doing what they're doing. Yeah. So there's a lot of hard work that will need to be done. And the danger or what people are afraid of about AI, you can't replace the moment when you tell somebody and work with somebody towards being healthy. AI will not help. Yeah. So the jobs will change, but for me, the job will remain, and they will be much broader. And it's just simple one simple example, which is amazing, by the way, that is going to happen.
I think I think the upside is great. The downside is a bit worrying, but I think like you've just been speaking about, I think there's great opportunity. I think one of the things we spoke about quite early on when we started working together was the insurance industry as a whole has to become proactive rather than reactive. Yeah. The insurance industry for way too long has been a reactive industry. Something happens to you, you go to hospital, we pay for that. Well, actually, why are we allowing people to have diabetes, chronic heart disease, and all of these serious issues? Why are we not working on preventing those issues? And I think there's a lot of new treatments that are coming to the forefront that we're seeing, peptides, etc., that can really help us with that journey. I mean, I haven't got it on today, but I have an Apple iWatch, I've got my Ultra Human Ring, and I've got my Whoop. I literally track every metric that I possibly can. What we need to start doing, and what I actually think potentially the insurance industry could really take advantage of, but we have to get around the data protection rules that we have, is how can we actually start to use that data to do individualized underwriting? Yeah. Because if you're, and I'm being a bit generalistic, but more than likely, if you're going to have a Whoop, you've got a Ultra Human Ring to record your data, you're probably going to be in the healthier section of the population because you've gone out and spent that money to track all these things. Probably that's one of the reasons. But I can actually see a future where you start to use that data in a form to do individual underwriting. So you potentially could have a much better premium rate than someone else just based off of how much effort you're putting in during the year to stay healthy.
Yeah.
And how can we encourage people to be healthy? Because it's good for everyone. Doesn't matter where you come from. Doesn't matter if you're rich, not rich, you're an athlete, you're not an athlete. It's good to be healthy. it's good to be active. The concern I have is the way technology is going. It's almost driving us to be more sedentary. Stay at home, sit at home, look at your iPad, look at your phone. How do we get people more active to have a healthier and better life?
Yeah, and I think there's stages.
Yeah.
I don't think anyone, everybody has the same level of willingness to be healthy.
Yeah.
There's also a moment in life where it's very challenging. Let's take an expat who has a lot of pressure. His first assignment in 10,000 kilometers away from home.
Yeah.
He worked very hard at a university to get the job, to get the diploma. Then he get the job. The family paid for it. So the pressure of him or her to succeed where he is or she is going to be extremely high. And I don't think that person at that moment in his career, in her career, will be towards being healthy.
Yeah, I agree, and I think you're right, especially coming from sort of the geographical location where my family comes from and everything else. When they send children overseas to study, they're literally spending all of their money. So the kid's first thought is, well, how am I going to get that money back to the parents? How am I going to pay this off? But what people need to realize is, okay, that's important. That's a bit of a short-term view, because if you don't stay healthy, you're not going to be able to work. So, and also we find from sort of the data that we see, the healthier populations of employees actually are more productive at work. So how do we help those individuals try to stay as healthy as possible? Because we know that'll be better for them. It'll be less cost impact on insurers or the social care system. It'll produce better results for the employees that they work for. It'll produce better results for them at home. You tend to find people that are fit and healthy are also happier, etc. So it's just the whole ecosystem. How do you do that? But it's easier said than done.
You spoke earlier about not being reactive but being proactive. And if we look at the ecosystem today and all the tools that are popping up, they improve the way we service client. So it's about reducing maybe part of the bill in the long term, or making sure that the servicing, the element of trust is there for the client. But that's just reducing the bill a little bit for the client. And the client meaning the HR department is going to choose the insurer and servicing agent, or the level of the coverage. But there is also, for companies, absenteeism is a gigantic cost.
Yeah, absolutely.
And retrain somebody. Talent, there's a war of talent, which is getting worse and worse. There is the cost of treatment is getting higher and higher. So, the employers are the one at the end of the day who pay the bill. And it's about how do you divert the bill? Do you divert it today, a bit more today, to make sure that it's a long term? Or today is, there is no money because, for imperative reasons, whether it's a bad cycle moment or so, that there is not enough money to do the prevention. So it's the whole ecosystem has to work together and be responsible, and not necessarily put the brake on the prevention side of the coverage, but really working towards that. And I find that the ecosystem today is growing on the prevention. Lots of employers are looking at the plans that we offer, not necessarily into, this is a marketing log, great, you're going to get glasses, and, it's great to have glasses every year or 2 years, but, and sometimes it's needed, but this is not the moment of truth. The moment of that's the flashy moment. The moment of truth is making sure that we're there for the client when there is a sickness in either the employee or their family, so that the person is back to work ASAP. Another element you mentioned, and I'm sorry, I will let you afterwards, but it's GDPR. So it's like the European data protection. Which grows everywhere, but in a different way. And there will never be the same one everywhere. So it's a dream or a nightmare. It depends on which side of the equation you start thinking. But it's an important element, and people feel safe when it's data protection, but it's actually working against them. This is a challenging bit. I don't think today we have all the answers, or we can even start designing the answers for this. What I find is that the Data Act in the EU is actually pushing now to insurers and data owners to make data more public. So at least when the model are going to be run, they will not be run onto a biased or it's just like a little piece, which is still a big set of data, but little piece of the equation. But on a larger piece of the population to balance it and get better results, and that should also work on the prevention side. The last element here is how do we make sure that it works between the prevention conclusion of the model and translate that into actionable actions.
Yeah, look, I think, two things I take away from what you said. One is in regards to data protection. I think you're right. In some sense, look, it made sense why people wanted to bring out GDPR and etc. to protect your individualized data, and that is fair. But I think in certain elements, it actually, as you sort of touched on, it works against you. Because if you could see my health data, my underwriting data on an individual basis compared to, let's say, someone else of my age, 51, that is a smoker, has done no exercise, doesn't eat healthily, and then you compare that to my results, I would hope that I'm significantly in better shape, in better health. I mean, I wear this Whoop and it tells me that my body's age is actually 43 years old, where I'm 51. So I've put a lot of time and effort into it. I'm very proud of that, Francois. Yes, thank you.
I'm amazed. Yeah, that's great.
I put a lot of time and effort into that. So there should be some reward, right?
Yeah.
Life is not about not making an effort. All the people I know who've been successful, like yourself and other people I know, it's not easy. It's hard work, right? Yeah. It's hard work. Life is not supposed to be easy. It's supposed to be a challenge. It's supposed to be hard, right? You go back to when we started and we were clobbering animals to eat and wearing seal fur and things like that. It wasn't easy. So for me, what I find I would like to see more of is people making that individualized effort and that decision in themselves to say, hey, I'm going to be healthy. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. And I think that will make for a much better planet.
It would. And all the players have to do their bit on that one. If I
Absolutely
conclude. And from the insurance side, you touch on one super important element is hyper-personalisation. So it's done on the servicing side, on the ability to just provide to the client the most adapted possible coverage, which is great. And but if you look from the risk management side and purely risk here, you're going to say, okay, I know all the data of that person. I'm going to exclude diabetes or this type of cancer because there's some signs, yeah? But that's not insurance. That's okay. It is insurance, but what's the point of excluding all those elements or making them much more expensive if insurance is about mutualization of the risk?
Yeah,
so it may point. Or may not happen. Yeah. So this push to the extreme means no insurance is necessary, because then the price for you will be your exact price for your whole life
based on the treatments that you're going to have.
So what's the point?
Yeah, that's a good point.
I don't need insurance. The insurance is then should be there for the cash flow moment. So if you pay a little bit, then of course you pay a little bit in the premium, or your employee pays a little bit of premium. So when the cash flow is happening, you don't have to sell the house, or you don't have to empty your account. So this is the key moment, right? So
yeah, that's exactly it for me. you're right. In one way, you're almost taking the risk out of the policy, because if you've got enough medical data on an individual, you could probably start to predict what their health pattern's going to be going forward, rather than say you kind of know, well, this guy's not really going to, or this woman's not going to make any claims under this because of this, this, and this. But for me, it's almost like you've got a savings account, right? You're putting a little bit away for a rainy day. And this is you putting away a little bit for a rainy day in regards to your health. Yeah. Because if you come up and all of a sudden you get a shock claim for you need a triple heart bypass and it's got to be paid for privately, no one's going to have that $7,500,000 in their bank account to pay for it. So that's really what I see insurance as being. But for me, it's, look, I think there's always a place for insurance, and I talk to my friends about this all the time, right? If you think of any product, any service, there's an insurance policy that you can buy for that product or that service. So insurance is one of the most fundamental things that we have in this world, but not many people realize it. So, I think in regards to health, I just want to see a more healthy population. In general, whether that's insurance, non-insurance, just in general, I want to see a more healthy human race. I think too much of it is going in the wrong direction, and that we need to turn around. And I think insurance can play a big part in it. Yeah. I think one of the difficult things, from the sort of product side of it is even that's becoming more individualized, seriously, with all the individual add-ons you can buy and everything else. How do we, as you sort of said, how do we get to that sort of hyper-personalised, individualised policy is going to be interesting, and how we can leverage technology on that is going to be very interesting over the next little while.
Well, I think technology will play a big role.
It has to.
We can't be there all the time for a client. No. And by that, I mean, we are there for a client all the time, but there's a moment where it's a night, or the office is closed, and maybe you can rely on other offices, etc. around the world. But there's always a moment, a downtime, and I think technology will help us to be there for clients all the time, accelerate things. And our role is actually, you spoke about savings account. Clients are not alone. It's the moment of crisis that insurers and the servicing, the TPAs, and the rest of the ecosystem is actually working to make it possible for the client to get a treatment immediately or the right moment for him or her.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've been talking about this sort of insurance landscape and everything else, and how it's changing, and technology-wise, I think there's it's going to be interesting to see, and especially for yourself, someone who's been a leader in this industry and pioneered certain things. I think it's going to be interesting from a product design and underwriting perspective, and the access to big data, how that will help big underwriters and actuaries become more accurate and more sort of able to be individualized. I think there's a lot of upside that's going to come through the technology, but I just want everyone to remember that we're all looking after human beings, and that we cannot forget human empathy.
Completely agree. Emotions.
That's it. Now time for the cocktails.